Hello, my name is Margaret Adele, and welcome to episode 2 of Calling Out Booktubers. I had intended to do one sooner than this. However, I got it in my head that since I managed to make my first video kind of have a succinct theme and all being non-binary, I really liked that idea and I wanted to continue with it. And so trying to find 3 different booktubers that all shared something in common, but that I also felt confident enough to recommend this specific book to them, took a little bit. And I finally found it. So all 3 of these booktubers are male, they identify as men, and that's what I got. I don't expect every video in this series to be focused on gender. That's just kind of how it happened. But let's jump right in. And in this case, because I don't know some of these booktubers as well, I'm probably not going to do the you thing as much, but regardless, if you're interested in any of their channels, I will have them down in the description below. So first up is Justin from Triumphal Reads. He is, well, he's a little bit strange in what he reads compared to mainstream booktube, because dude is hardcore all about military fantasy and nonfiction and historical fiction and historical nonfiction about military. So it was very refreshing to see that kind of those genres given a lot of love on BookTube, because those are some genres that are really overlooked on mainstream BookTube. And also, he's the only other booktuber I've seen that has put the Shadow Campaigns series by Django Wexler on their like best of fantasy series list, and that's like my favorite series of all time currently, so I'm really jazzed about that. So I knew going into it, I needed something a little bit darker, maybe historical fiction, maybe dealing with something military bent. And then I found it. So my pick for Justin from Triumphal Reads is Reaver by David Pilling. This is historical fiction all about the border wars that were happening between England and Scotland in the 16th century, at the same time that a rebellion was rising against Elizabeth I to depose her and put Mary of Scots up there because religion. And this focuses on one specific Reaver named Riccio the Bow, who pisses off the wrong, very powerful family and is essentially ran out of his own home to go hide in the wilderness, and then ends up getting caught up in the rebellion as it sweeps through the borderlands. Now this is very bleak, very accurate to the hygiene of that time period. Not a lot of people got teeth, so you really have to like that kind of thing. But the battle sequences, especially one where this giant force is trying to invade this like manor home that they're trying to defend against, was fantastic. I loved it. Very gory. Very, did I say bleak? If I didn't, I'm gonna say it again. Bleak. Historical fiction. It is the first in a series. I have not read the others, but I did read this one at like 1 a.m. and still loved it because I was crazy enough to do a 24-hour readathon. But it still kept my interest at like 1 or 2 a.m. in the morning. So I would definitely suggest this one for Justin. Up next is, I can't not talk about it. You know him from that one BookTube newbie tag that everyone got annoyed by. And let me get into it before we write him off. So this is Scott from Book Invasion. And if you didn't know, yes, there was that one BookTube newbie tag where he was trying to be sarcastic and make a joke and went way too far and turned into an asshole. And the first thing I said to him when I discovered we were both on the same BookTuber Discord was, hey, dude, that video was stupid. And he said, yes, I was trying to be an asshole for a joke and became an asshole. So he is aware that that was stupid. I'm aware that that was stupid. But ever since he has realized his mistake, we have moved forward and have had no issue, at least between the 2 of us. So I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt that he's learned. And he's also one of the few other booktubers that is super dedicated to sci-fi. And I really need more booktubers to suggest sci-fi to, because again, we just have very specific tastes in mainstream booktube. And I have so many indie sci-fi picks, you guys. So for Scott, I recommend The Loom of Sorrows by Matthew Cagle. This is very bleak sci-fi, and I'm realizing that this video might look like it has a theme, but just wait. This is all about a Earth post a quick jaunt over to another planet. There was an apocalypse. Humanity moves to this planet called Joshua 20 under the help of some very mysterious aliens. And they found out that Joshua 20 was an awful post-apocalyptic place that was dystopian and awful and everyone's struggling to survive. And this hero named Enon rose up, kind of got a team together, went to Earth, and discovered that it is once again hospitable. But instead of staying on Earth and just sending the message back, he went back and never returned back to Earth. And so the big question of all of this is why? What in the dystopian hellhole that was this other planet did he go back for? And in the modern day, we have this tour guide character who accidentally finds himself with the memories of Enon in his head, and they're slowly killing him. So he is on a race against the clock to try to find out why Enon gave up this haven to go back to this hellhole. I thoroughly enjoyed this. There are some quick trigger warnings for one scene of rape. Fortunately, it's not very in detail. It is over fairly quickly. So if that is not a specific trigger for you, or if you can brace yourself beforehand, you should be okay. I really enjoyed the writing style. I really enjoyed the flashbacks. The formatting is really well done. I will be reviewing the next one. It is a duology, and both of them are fairly short. You can get them read pretty quickly, but I love this one. But unfortunately, I feel like this one is going to be one that you're going to need to specifically like this kind of sci-fi, and I think Scott just might. And for my third pick, this is one of my favorite new channels that I discovered through Rachel Marie shouting him out on her channel, and that is A.G. Macdonald. He actually hosted me as a booktuber spotlight on his channel, so I definitely feel like I need to pay it back. A.G. Macdonald, currently in the booktube arena, is probably best known for his hatred of red, white, and royal blue. He did a hysterical review on it that I love. And the funniest thing is that everyone, you know, wants to hate on him. But fun fact, he is queer. So it was a queer man that was looking down on this MLM or MM story because he found it was way too overly vulgar and fetishizing of the demographic he is a part of. And in that review, he talks about how he sees that a lot in BookTube. For all that, BookTube is very focused on own voices and very focused on making sure that we have like representation both in the books, but also in the authors writing those books. That MLM or MM romances, we tend to drop the ball on as a community, where a lot of the most hyped MM or MLM romances will be written by women. And so I was thinking a lot about that when I was trying to think of the suggestion. And then I realized looking over, he reads mid-grade, which I was really excited for because, again, that's not something every booktuber reads. So I am super jazzed to recommend Soulfire by Chaz Harris. Now, at first glance, this seems to be a kind of cut and paste mid-grade hero fantasy story, but there's a lot more to it than that. This is all about George, who has been hearing tales from his grandfather about this land called Mythica, and one day discovers it might actually be real, and he might low-key be needed to help save it, along with these other artists from our world who need to essentially stem the tide of this growing darkness of this shadow force. Now, that's pretty standard, especially for a mid-grade fantasy, but what makes it so much different is the casting. This is an LGBT-centric mid-grade fantasy. Our main protagonist, George, might have a crush on a boy in his class, and he's kind of coming to grips with his sexuality. There's a non-binary character. There is a slew of different ethnicities involved. So in my review, I referred to it as standard recipe, new ingredients. So it still has all of that fun charm of the chosen one hero story of a mid-grade novel, but it also has an adorable boy with an adorable crush on another adorable boy. And I don't know why I'm saying adorable so much, but I really enjoyed this one. And Chaz Harris is a gay man, so you know it's coming from a place of own voices. I like to think that he imagines himself as George, but that's just me. Maybe that's what I did when I was writing all my stories when I was younger. imagining myself as all my protagonists, but I really think that you could enjoy this one, even if you're not of that community. Just enjoy a good own voices LGBT mid-grade. So that is it, my second episode of calling out booktubers with indie books. I would promise to get another one of these out soon, but again, it just feels like I really gotta know that I have the exact pick for that booktuber. Like, all three of these books I've read, like, recently-ish, like within the last couple months at the most, so it might just be a case of having to wait until I know that I've got the next person. But I'm really happy that I'm keeping up with this. If you are a booktuber and you want some indie recs, you can either drop some of your videos down below and let me look through and figure out your taste, or just hit me up on Twitter and be like, hey, I need indie recs. These are the things I like. These are the genres or the tropes I like. Can you give me something? I will never not love that. If I could become the person that people go to for indie recs, that would make my booktube career. Never feel weird about coming to me asking for indie recs. But with nothing else to say, I hope you have a wonderful day and a marvelous tomorrow.